It's a great pleasure to be here together with my dear friend Alon. I'm Jordi Diaz, I'm the Associate Dean at EADA Business School. EADA, the business school in Barcelona, one of the best business schools according to the Financial Times and the different accreditations around the world. And honored to be this time with you, together with Alon.
And my name is Alon Rozen. Thank you, Jordi, for coming to Paris today to be here from Barcelona. I'm the Dean and a Professor of Innovation at the Ecole Business School, and our partner in crime is EADA for the LeadTech Executive MBA. Maybe you want to say a few words about that?
Yes, the LeadTech is the new venture that we are offering together. And as the name mentioned, I mean, LeadTech, leadership technology, we think that we are connecting the best of leadership offered by the tradition of EADA, very much focused on leadership, and the best of technology offered by the best school in technology in this area that we could find, which is the Ponts Business School. So we're very, very excited with this new venture. So let me start along with the first question. So we are here about technology. So what is the real purpose of technology?
A great question, Jordi. People kind of forget, but the whole point of technology is to solve real-world problems. And it's kind of ironic, but if you can see the technology, it means that it's not really solving the problem. Like a case in point, we had mobility problems, and we had the car, and gasoline was the technology that was chosen to run our cars. We don't think about gasoline today as a technology, even though there was a lot of choices. Should we do electric? Should we do some other forms of combustion? But the technology we chose was gasoline combustion engines, and that solved our mobility problems. Of course, it created other problems, but definitely the idea is that when a technology is really working, it solves the problem, and we stop thinking about it as a technology. Today we have lots of technologies, and the complexity makes us realize that they're there, which means that they're probably not solving the problems as well as we'd like for the moment. Getting better, but still a lot of problems on the way. And so basically I'll throw the question back at you and say technology solves problems. What problems do you see technology solving today?
Wow, what an easy question, right? So I would say at the pace that technology is advancing, and with this merge of exponential technologies, I would say that almost everything can be solved by technology. We are getting into an era where we will say to Alexa, we want a specific item, and then Alexa immediately will send this order to a 3D printing machine, which will print this, and then with the use of drones, this will be sent wherever you want. So this is not science fiction. This is real. This is happening, and this is going to happen mainstream. So, but talking seriously for us, our the way we understand these opportunities, this is in a way doing the same a little bit better. And I think the real point here, when you ask about what can be solved, is those things, those major problems that humanity is facing. This is where technology has to really make a difference. So now, if we go back to what we were saying, so what do you? Because this is an important debate that we are having even in the program design. What are the problems that you see on tech? What are the problems that tech could create?
Good question. Obviously, it's trying to solve problems, but it's also creating its own issues. Well, first of all, you kind of mentioned this whole new process of digitalization of everything and digital transformation. That's creating a lot of organizational challenges, even I would say generational challenges between, let's say, Generation Y, which is very comfortable with technology, Generation X, which had to kind of learn technology a little bit later. And so already you have some generational friction around technology. So that's already a talent management issue that we're seeing in the workforce. And now that Generation Z, which was born and bred and is perfectly fluent in technology, is also entering the workforce. It creates an even stronger kind of schism between the generations. Each one increasingly comfortable with technology has entered the workforce, but different levels of comfort. That's one. Another one is that technology is kind of we either love it or we hate it. So some people turn technology into like the devil, and they demonize technology and they say, oh my God, the world is going to end, all of the jobs are going to be destroyed. And so there's a fear, which is kind of confusion between the uncertainty about the future and seeing technology as the scapegoat for the fear that uncertainty creates. And so that's also something that's a little bit, that needs to be managed, and leadership plays a big role in explaining that it's not technology which is good or bad, but what we do with it. But that's already one challenge that we're going to have with technology. Can we create new jobs faster than we destroy the old jobs? And that's something that as a society, it's a big challenge. And then there's the opposite, which is also true. Like, we've also can create a situation where we see God-like presence in technology. Like, we just revere technology and we say, wow, these algorithms that are managing our life, it just seems like magic. Alexa seems like magic, Siri seems like magic, and we can forget to ask the questions of what's driving those algorithms. And so we've seen things like bias in algorithms and other things like that. So, there's one side we kind of can demonize technology and make it everything that's bad and put all of the problems on the back of technology and on big tech firms, for example, which we now expect to solve all of society's problems. And there's the other side of people just like are in love with technology, and technology can do no wrong, and we have to go as far as we can into a technological reality. And obviously the truth, if we can say something, that is somewhere in between. We have to have respect for technology, we have to understand it, and we shouldn't fear it, but that requires leadership to, I guess, manage this new transition into a more tech world. And so that's what I'll throw back to you. That's what you guys do at EADA is leadership. And we've been talking about this notion of like tech or technology awareness, that we kind of see that new leaders require something, like, why do you see this tech-aware leadership as something that's such an important, I'd say, quality that modern leaders, modern startup founders need to have?
Yeah, thank you. And I actually, I would like to continue on those lines regarding the fear. Because I think this is a very powerful word, and this is one of the words that I think has to resonate on our audience here today. Because fear is something that paralyzes. And I guess when we talk to our candidates, graduates, corporate colleagues, is sometimes, we are so much managing the present. We are embedded in managing the present in the short-term pressure that we cannot even stop. We cannot even select what's not working or what's not going to work in the future. And of course, we can never think about creating the future. And I think this mindset of fear, we have to transform that through, and the only way is through a stop, to learn, to get aware of what is this technology, what's going on in my industry, but beyond my industry. Because we are also seeing how industries and verticals are a thing of the past, because any bank today is more worried about the big techs than the other banks. Yeah. Those things are things that we have to stop, to reflect, to pause, to create, what's the future we want to build, and then learn about ourselves first, which is why we bring the leadership and the human factor. Learn about ourselves, learn where we want to be, and see and understand the gap in our own skills, but also in the technical part, that's why I said that, leadership alone is not enough, but only technology neither, and that's why the beauty of this connection of leadership and technology. So let me go back to you, and I'm going to ask you about how can you leaders manage this complexity of technology today, because we are saying about the fear, about these verticals disappearing, about stopping, pausing, creating the future. So how do you come up with this complexity?
Well, obviously it's a big challenge, and that's a really good question. What could I say here? In terms of the complexity, I think we've entered a new era that we can really call the technology complexity era. And what do I mean by that? It's like, we're now doing a Zoom on a laptop, and there's not one person on the planet who understands all of the technology in a laptop. That we don't consider it as an elaborate gadget, but it has so much technology in it, and there's not even one person that understands all of the different technologies, how they interact, how they interoperate, and everything else. So at the same time we're using the laptop, we're harnessing its efficiency, even if we don't understand it perfectly. And I think it's a good metaphor for like the leadership of the future. Sam Arbesman wrote a wonderful book called Overcomplicated, and explains how the technology today is just too complicated for us to understand, but we can't give up on trying. And he suggests kind of two approaches. He says there's the physicist approach, So a physicist looks for the universal theory that explains everything and kind of a top-down understanding of technology. While he says another approach today, which is what basically complex technology requires, is a biologist approach. You explore. And for example, a laptop, you don't understand all the technologies, but you explore its different features and you're able to harness it and master it and use the laptop perfectly, even though you don't master all of the technology there. And so he says kind of, we need to have both a physicist and a biologist approach, and the leaders of today need to have both. They have to explain things top down and allow this exploration bottom up. And so the physicist and the biologist need to work together and not in silos, which is another part of the managing complexity, is because it's so complicated, because there's so many interactions, different talents and skills and generations have to work together in order to harness it effectively. And I think that's one of the big challenges that today leaders have, is how to make, have different experts, different diversity of workforce, male, female, working equally in tech, old and young, generation X, Y, and Z, all working together to harness technology to solve problems in an efficient way without being enamored with the complexity or being afraid, like you said, the fear of the complexity. And so, you know, obviously these are big challenges. And so, you know, this is, you know, what I see, but, you know, I'm sure from a leadership perspective, and some of the, I know the companies that you're working with are facing big challenges. We had a discussion in Barcelona just a couple of weeks ago. So what do you see, like in terms of the technology challenges that leaders are facing today? What are the big issues that you see kind of recurring and that these leaders are struggling with?
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned the very interesting discussion we had a couple of weeks ago in Barcelona with 3 of our graduates placed in 3 different industries and in 3 different parts of the world. And they came, they shared with the audience their experiences. And the point here is that something that actually you mentioned, and I think is a nice way to summarize what's going on here in education, is that technology is the new finance. You know, and I think and that's I'm quoting you here because you said that, but technology is the new finance. What does that mean? That we could not imagine an MBA graduate without finance knowledge in the past. Today we cannot imagine an MBA graduate without the technology, but not only understanding, you know, the big picture of numbers, but getting a little bit beyond the big picture. And we realize with those, especially in the startup phase, but not only, but in this, let me elaborate. In the startup phase, resources are very limited and the founders have the idea, but they have to put the MVP in practice. And in order to put this MVP in practice, most of the times, I would say 9 out of 10 is tech-based. And they need to do something related to artificial intelligence, about sharing economy, platform businesses, blockchain, etc., etc. So you cannot outsource everything, because otherwise not only the budget will be disappearing, you know, in a second, but even the idea, because your idea is there, is in developing phase, and if you are not playing with the technology yourself, the project this is not the old days where you went, you know, you produce something and then you taste it. No, now it's like you're virtually creating that in the virtual space. So that's what I feel, is that things like coding, things like programming, things like really understanding how a website works, those are things that we tend, I mean, in the past probably we thought that was something for the IT department, and not anymore. Actually, we ran a very important study in Spain and in countries in Latin America about digital skills. And there's one question, which is the key question, is who drives this digital transformation? Who drives the digital transformation in your organization? And we realize how Spain has moved, and now we're happy to say that the CEO is the one that drives this technological transformation, but still in some other economies, it still is in the hands of the technology or marketing. So what I would say is that, quoting you back, is technology is the new finance. You need to get some relevant stuff on that, and if you can't do it throughout the program, you have to do it afterwards. The beauty here is that we have embedded and included this as part of the experience. And then beyond that, you can never forget about your personal skills, you know, and your personal purpose and mission. So going back to you, and we're getting to the end with our final questions, let me ask you about what I would say, what kind of leadership creates successful innovation? So that is what I would like to ask you.
All right. Well, good question. I'm kind of like you. I like to get inspired by inspiring thinkers. And so in this case, I'll quote Scott Galloway, who's a Columbia professor of marketing, so aptly enough. And so he talks about technology. He wrote a wonderful book about all of the big tech firms, by the way, which is called the Big Four. But he also has a wonderful newsletter. And recently in the newsletter, he kind of talked about what are the companies that succeed in today's world. Why are the big tech firms running away with the market? Why have they gotten so big? And he tried to kind of get to the essence. And the essence, he said, is time. Humans are extremely time sensitive. We want to gain time. We want to save time. We want to have more valuable time. Every time we have an experience, we want it to be a valuable experience. And so he explains Google success, he explains it as just think of all the time that it saves us. When we're looking for information, if we're looking to buy something, Amazon, the same thing. We can find something, order something, get delivered without all of the hassle, but the wasting of time that used to be involved in buying something. Facebook saves us amazing time trying to connect with friends and family. It's a very efficient channel, but today it's also become an efficient channel for how we learn about news and new subjects and new ideas. So, and then if you think about even like a company like LVMH in luxury, it just makes our time more valuable. And people are willing to spend a lot of money to make their time and their experiences more valuable. So I would say leadership today, you talked about tech aware, I'd say it's even time awareness, saying that at the end of the day, technology is solving problems, but it's all about giving us either more time or more valuable time. And that I thought was a very inspiring insight.
So let me then close probably here with something I think relates. Is like a piece of advice to the audience as well, no? And I probably quoting someone also very, very well known like Carol Dweck about the growth mindset. And I would like to finish, if you allow me, this interesting conversation with this approach. Growth mindset opposed to fixed mindset. And I think we are entering an era where we have to feel that we're not reaching the end. This is an ongoing process. So we have to think that we're not good or bad. We are in progress, and no matter how good we are doing something or how poorly we are doing something, this can totally be transformed. And we have seen also cases of organizations that were about to die, and they, thanks to the right change and the right implementation of technology, they have transformed this completely. And I guess also personally and for the future leaders that we are also educating, we have seen that people that were struggling, they came for advancing, changing, or totally creating their careers, and they've done it. So growth mindset could be a nice thing to recommend to end.
Well, let me finish with one other mindset, which I think is perfect. By the way, Carol has a wonderful newsletter called Learning to Learn, and so I would really suggest reading that for anybody who's interested in learning. But there's also something that Leonard Mlodinow calls elastic thinking. And so I would say there's the growth mindset, but there's also the elastic mindset. And kind of like everything we've been talking about today, technology, leadership, increasing complexity, the increasing pace of change, means that we've entered kind of a phase where uncertainty is the new normal. And the only way to face that is to have an elastic mindset, to embrace that uncertainty, to say that it's a source of creativity, and to embrace the change. And I think elastic mindset is something that we're really trying to imbue in our future graduates of the LeadTech MBA. And I hope we're able to do that successfully.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.